up, beautiful people? It's your girl janiaaaliyah, and welcome back to my channel. So as you can see by the thumbnail and the title, today I am doing a sew-in, and I feel like it's actually kind of surprising the fact that out of all the hair videos I have, I do not have like a traditional sew-in video on my page already. But nonetheless, here y'all go, we doing one today. So before we get into it, I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all all the supplies, including the hair that I'll be using today. So first things first, I'm gonna be wearing 2 bundles of the She Slays First Kinky Straight, and this is, I believe, in 18 inches. I will make sure I put all the information about this hair in the description box down below for y'all to shop. And this is the Kinky Straight. I chose the Kinky Straight because it blends the most, like, or it blends the it blends the closest like with my natural texture when it's pressed out. Like, it's really giving, you know, it's already giving blowout vibes right now, but when I straighten it, it blends like identical to my real hair. And so along with that, I am going to be using a weaving net for when I do my braid down, just so I can get a more uniform sewing pattern throughout my head. And then lastly, I'll be using some clips for the time being to kind of segment my hair. Now, before I get started, I do want to do a both middle part and side part, and so there is a way that you can do it sewing down, but today I'm going to do that part by inserting like 2 microlink bundles in between my part. So with that being said, I will be using a microlink beater plus a pair of pliers, which I'll also include down in the description box below for y'all to get all the supplies. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this video. So welcome back to another video, you guys. So to start off with this style, I went ahead and first parted out my leave out. And so like I said in the intro, I am trying to do a middle part and a side part for this style. So you guys can see me here going through and parting out my middle part first. And then I went ahead and kind of, you know, decided where I wanted my side part to be, and I parted that out as well. So you guys will see later on, but the method I decided to use to have like both parts is I just wanted to put one little strip of microlink bundle in the middle, which is basically me just sewing a track on beads instead of a braid, so that way it's more flexible and can move back and forth. And so that's what I'm just making room here, because you guys will see me kind of part off a thin section. So that's what the thin section is for. That's going to be in between the middle part and the side part. Then once I have my leave out section off for now, I'm going to go ahead and go part around my perimeter. Not because I'm going to have leave out, because I did want this style to be as protective as possible, but because I'm going to be using a weaving net for the first time in forever. I typically just sew right on the braids, but you can get a more uniform stitch pattern if you do use a weaving net, and you know, you can get a flatter, more seamless sew-in with a net as well. So y'all are gonna see me go take a tiny piece of just Marley hair that I had, and I'm gonna make this little anchor braid going around the perimeter of my hair. And the sole purpose of this braid is because that's where I'm going to sew the net to, so that way it's nice and flat. Because you know, typically when you do like a sew-in and then you have the connecting braids, as your hair starts to grow and loosen up and you know your sew-in gets old, you'll kind of have that little lift effect in the back of your head, the little hump. But when you do the braid around the perimeter and you have the net, and then like that is under the actual hump part, it just turns out as like a really flat result. And I don't know, I just like that a little more. You know, it feels more comfortable, and it takes tension off of your actual hair. Because I don't know about y'all, but I've experienced having, you know, hair sewn too tight and then braids pulling. So the net is also really good if you're not looking to put any tension or pull on your real hair as well. And just disclaimer, I did not braid this tight or anything, so you know, just make sure you're able to sew to it. But by all means, do not try to take y'all edges out with this braid, because it's not necessary at all. then from there, I just went ahead and continued with the typical little braiding pattern that you do with the sew-in, where you're just braiding cornrow straight down and connecting to the end of the previous braid to like the beginning / middle of your next braid. And I did that until I got up to the very front of my head. And once I got to the front, I then took the end of my final braid and I just crocheted it through the braids. Now some people do just sew the braid down, but you know, let's just not waste thread, and I hate having to take that out and accidentally like cutting your hair or something. So yeah, I just decided to loop this one through my braids that were already there, because it's going to be covered by the net anyway. Now, one con to wearing the net is the fact that you can't really access your scalp as you would without a net. So I did make it very important to oil my scalp before putting this net on and sewing it down to my head. And now once I went in with the net, you guys, that may have to be a whole video in itself, because not gonna lie, to me sewing that net down was probably the hardest part of this whole video. But I think the best route for this is probably to line it up with your head, maybe have some clips if you have some to hold them down, and sew on the perimeter first and then make your way around the leave out. I started on the leave out, but I think it'll be better off if you just start sewing on the perimeter and then move outwards. Hopefully that makes sense. And now that it's time to go ahead and sew this first track on, the way I usually start off with my sew-ins is I fold the bundle in half, so that way it's almost like I'm sewing down double wefts at one time. And obviously you will have to use a little more hair for that, but this is the method that I love to get a nice full natural look. And so I'm doing that, and obviously when I start the sewing, I like to go through the weft, so that way I make sure that first part of the track is really in there, and then I knock that part off and I just continue to sew as normal. And the way I like to sew, because it's different from how I used to sew, instead of just doing loops after loops after loops, I like to loop the needle through the net and then kind of loop the needle through itself. Okay, hopefully that makes sense, but it kind of, I don't know, I'm trying to explain this the best way I can. Hopefully y'all can just see exactly what I'm talking about. But I feel like it brings a more secure stitch and it covers more ground, instead of you just looping as normal where it would just come right back out. Looping the needle and the thread around itself after each little loop definitely is going to keep them tracks right in place. And so I'm gonna just let y'all watch the needle and thread part, because I feel like if I keep talking, I'm gonna confuse myself. Okay. Yeah, and last part, just as a little disclaimer, absolutely make sure you're using the net, because that's what we put it on our head, so that way we use it. So what I mean by that is, don't go ahead and sew through your braids and whatnot. Like, actually sew on the net, because the whole point is to, you know, eliminate any possible tension to your braids and make the net do all the work. So do make sure you're actually sewing through the net, and you do have to be careful when sewing through the net, because if you sew maybe too far out or too far up from where you're actually laying the track, you can potentially like rip the net. So just be careful and just be mindful of that as you're sewing.
I've been out of my head, can't get out of bed. Too much on my brain, but got it good, can't complain. It's like I'm losing my mind, and time's hard to find. What's a girl gotta do to catch a break up? When life tries to test me, I take
Then lastly, as you're getting closer and closer to your part, my goal was to get as close as possible to my part, so you can kind of see me going around, and then I actually ended up having to cut a tiny piece of track to lay right at that last little back part. And then you guys can see, like, I still have a little bit of room left to fit one small track right there, like on the left and right of my leave out. And so I did go through afterwards and get like one little tiny piece of track and literally just sew that on top of the braid, just to give me more extra, just to give me extra coverage and actually, you know, have something for the leave out to cover, so your leave out don't have to do too much work when it comes time to blend.
I'm running away to my own world, that's where I'll stay. When life tries to test me, I take it one day at a time. 'Cause I was crying yesterday, but look at me today. It has been so long since I wrote a sad song. Sunshine on my face, I'm feeling okay. Nothing's in my way. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
And last but not least, we are now in the styling process. And so I started off by just going through and curling my hair. I mean, not curling my hair, straightening my hair. Because one thing I do love about this kinky straight texture is not only does it match your natural like blowout texture, so if your hair was to frizz up, it will literally still blend. It also matches your natural silk press texture as well. So that's why I'm a kinky straight girl, because I just love it. I love hair that I don't really have to force or even damage my hair to blend with it. So I'm just going through and I'm straightening this, and y'all, as y'all can see, I didn't even have my flat irons all the way up, but it's still getting pretty straight. But if you do want it to get like extra straight, listen, it's weave. Do some extra passes if you really, yeah. Then here I am installing the microlink beads, because this is where I'm going to kind of install my flip over track. So as you guys can see, I literally have my looper tool and I'm just parting out like rectangle sections and sliding that bead right onto my hair. And I only had to use about 4 since this was such a small section. And microlink is basically, you know, braidless sew-in is very easy. So once I put those beads on, I went through with my pliers and I slid them down on my hair, and then I tightened that little bead, because that bead is where we're literally going to sew the track to. Now for this track method, I decided to not only just do one but do 2. So I did 1 track over and 1 track under. So I had my little velcro separator things, and I laid both tracks in place where I wanted them, and I had a clip in the back holding it in place. And then I literally just sewed on the right side and the left side of each bead, not under the bead, because you want to be able to remove and tighten effortlessly. So I sewed on the right and left each bead, and that is literally how I laid this track, y'all. And if y'all want a more in-depth like microlink or braidless sewing tutorial, definitely let me know, because I can do that for y'all, because I love this method like so much. But yeah. Then finally, I'm using life hacks that I found on TikTok, y'all. Today I'm setting my hair, my natural hair, with foaming mousse. So I went in with my nervy foaming mousse and I made sure I coated my hair in that and combed my hair all the way down, blended it to the weave, and then I went in with this mesh little, I don't even know what you call it, but mesh net that I found at the beauty supply store. and I tied that all around my head, and the purpose of this is to really just hold your hair down. So I did that, and I sat under the dryer for about 10 minutes just until it was dry. And even if it's not fully dry when you come under the dryer after that 10 minutes, you can still go through with the blow dryer. I'm going through with the hot comb because mine was dry, just to kind of, you know, flatten my roots and all that good stuff. And from there I blended my leave out, and y'all, look, it's not even super silky straight right now, my hair, but look at how good it's blending. Like, I'm not even playing. Listen, that kinky straight. Anyways,
with you the future seems so bright. Won't you stay here by my side? My mirror lies to me, says I ain't supposed to be the kind of woman that I am. Feel so invisible, standing near miserable. Why don't you hold my hand? What would it take to see a life that ain't make-believe? All truth, no lie, haven't got no peace of mind. We never thought we'd be living so differently. No lie, made up my mind, I have had enough. Oh, Mr. January, will you arrive?
okay y'all, so here is the final look. And y'all, okay, I haven't done my edges, disclaimer, but y'all, the hair, and I haven't done a sew-in, like a traditional sew-in in my hair, in literally forever. So before I get off here, let me show y'all what all I got. So I only used about 2 bundles on my whole head, and then I cut a piece of track in here to do the little micro link, just like right here, so that way I'm able to flip back and forth between side and middle part. Although right now I'm kind of definitely absolutely loving, you know, the middle part look. Nonetheless, y'all, this is about it. Definitely remember, I will link the hair and all the tools and utensils that I used in this video in the description box down below for y'all to shop and for y'all to try to style at home, okay? So thank y'all so much for tuning in. You already know, click, smash that subscribe button down below, and I will see y'all in my next video.